We'll be joined by Allen Elliott, who will be sharing with us the ins and outs when it comes to bank cards. But first, we have a couple of very special guests in studio to tell us a little bit about a very special project put on each year by Ohio Valley Bank. Hello and welcome back to Common Sense, the TV show here on Cable Channel 17 at the University of Rio Grande, sponsored by the Ohio Valley Bank, where we talk a little bit about different topics that are related to the business world and banking. So Ryan, a beautiful cold fall day outside today.
Not quite as warm as they said it was going to get.
No, and it's kind of continuing the trend that we've had over the last month of
wet and cold.
Wet and cold, and we've skipped fall, and
yep.
I think winter seems like
You're
it's
right
already
into
officially arrived, so unfortunately.
It's here.
It sure is.
That's a good segue into what we're going to talk about.
And what we're going to talk about, that's right. So today we have Brenda Henson and Angie Kennard in the studio, and they're going to talk about a Christmas program at the Ohio Valley Bank. They're the co-chairs of the Ohio Valley Bank Christmas Express program. So ladies, welcome to the show today. And why don't you guys start out by telling us a little bit about the great work the Christmas Express program does for the local communities?
Well, we started the project in 2010, and we joined forces with the Gallia County Community Project in 2011. And last year, the project overall, with all of these sponsors, we sponsored over 1,000 children in Gallia County. And some of the partners that partner with us is like Kiger Creek Power Plant, the VFW, the Lions Club, the Emblems Club, of course Ohio Valley Bank, we're one of the partners. And we're always looking for new partners to help us out throughout the year. So what you need to do to join up is to get in touch with the Gallia County Community Project.
Okay.
If anyone is interested in joining to be a sponsor, and then what we do at Ohio Valley Bank is throughout the year we hold different projects to raise money, and a lot of our monies that we raise come from our board of directors and our employees. They donate throughout the year, and we hold raffles and so forth to raise money to buy the gifts and stuff for the children. And this year we are going to hopefully sponsor anywhere from 75 to 100 children, depending on how much money that we get before we start shopping.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, we spend typically around $75 to $100 per child, all of the donations that we receive go toward each and every child every year, and we do have a group at the bank that actually goes out and does all the shopping for the children that we have. I think we gather up 10 or 12 individuals every year to do the shopping. Our community is a great supporter of this project. Not only do our employees contribute and the directors and bank officers, but we do have support from the community that will come in and contribute as well. And we accept those donations at any of our branch locations.
Okay. So are all the donations for the program monetary? Do you accept toy donations?
Yes,
or
we
like
also
that,
accept toy donations.
Okay.
We also purchase coats for every child. So we also will accept coat donations as long as they're new.
Right.
We do not accept anything that is used, but we do take the toy donations and monetary, yes.
Okay.
Great.
Well, that's definitely a great program, and just one of the great things that the bank does for the community.
Yeah.
Obviously, where we're at here, there is a huge need.
Yes.
With a lot of families and a lot of underprivileged children in the community. And
yes.
Obviously, it's a great way that the bank can really brighten up the holiday season for some kids that may not be able to experience that,
That's
or aren't
right.
fortunate enough
Yes,
to have a great
absolutely.
Christmas. So,
Absolutely.
And it'll be here, it's right around the corner.
So right.
Yeah, we're
3
starting.
weeks, 2 weeks
Yeah,
to
we're starting
Thanksgiving.
to plan our shopping and fundraisers now. So
So you've got your eye on the Black Friday deals.
yes,
You're all ready to go with that?
yes.
Well, great.
Okay.
That's great.
Very good.
It's all right. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us about this wonderful community project the bank does. We thank you so much for all you do to contribute to that as part of the bank. And
Thank you
it's
for
a wonderful-
thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you for being here. All right. So shifting gears a little bit, our next guest that we're going to have with us today has been here before. It's Allen Elliott with Ohio Valley Bank, and he's back to share some more ideas and more thoughts and things that go on with the bank cards that we've all grown so accustomed to using on a daily basis. It seems like most of our transactions now, is more cards, whether it's a credit card or a debit card or something other than cash. Cash has been kind of replaced, and checks have been kind of
Well,
replaced.
you're right. We were talking about that at lunch, and I think Alan said that nearly 60% of transactions are now card-based as opposed to check.
Right.
And along with that, there's each card has perks, and
Right.
and hopefully Alan can explain a little bit about that today and how to
Yes.
properly use a card to maximize its potential.
Right, and there's benefits all the way around with those, both to the consumer and to the business
sure.
that's doing the work. So,
Yep.
so anyway, if you would please welcome Allen back to our set here at the show. And Allen, he's the Ohio Valley Bank Vice President and Director of Customer Support. So Allen, why don't you start out by telling our viewers a little bit about your role at the bank and how long you've been there, just to kind of refresh the memory.
Sure. I've been with the bank since 1995. I was born and raised in Gallia County, actual graduate of University of Rio Grande.
Okay.
When I first started at the bank, I was in our operations division, paying the bank's bills. Over the years, I've done a lot of lending, from indirect to mortgage to commercial, and for the last 10 years, primarily involved in our bank card department.
Okay.
So.
Well, we're here to talk about the cards, and I know I'm sure this show is going to be educational for me as well, because you get all these offers, and you get credit card offers and the cash back and the points, and hopefully we'll get to talk about all
Absolutely.
that as we go on.
Sure.
But I guess one question we can start out with is do you think most people truly understand the difference between a debit card and a credit card?
We've been asked that over the course of my career at the bank. That's came up a lot, and the big difference between the two would be the fact that the debit card is attached to a checking account. So the funds that the customer is using are actually their funds. So the money's being drawn right out of the checking account that they currently own. As far as a credit card, there is it's attached to a line of credit. So it's basically a loan
Sure.
that the customer has taken out with the bank. So the difference being one card, the customer is accessing their own money. The other card, the customer is accessing a loan that they've obtained through the bank.
Okay. Which kind of leads into another question that I have, and I'm sure you would agree, we were talking beforehand as well. You go to the store and you put your card in, and now most are the insert with the chip.
The chip reader.
The chip reader, but it will say debit or credit, or it says debit, but yet the cashier still asks, do you want to run it as a debit or a credit? Can you explain what the difference is? Because it's the same card, it's tied to my checking account, but yet they're saying I can still use it as a credit.
Right. Well, the difference being, if you tell the cashier that you want to run it as a credit, you're going to need, most generally, to sign for that transaction.
Okay.
If you tell the cashier that you would like to run it as a debit, you're going to be asked to put in your 4-digit PIN number for that transaction. Although the card is a debit, all the way around is a debit card, because again, we're debiting it from the customer's checking account. If you tell the cashier credit, you will have to sign for it. Debit, you'll input your 4-digit PIN.
Okay. So suppose I lost my debit card and someone found it, and they went to use it. they said the cashier asked, "Do you want to run debit or credit?" Could someone say just run credit and sign for that without knowing the PIN and have the transaction?
Yeah,
go through?
that is generally how some fraud is perpetrated on some of our cards, and I'm sure all financial institutions run into the same type of situation. But you know, in those cases, you know, that it's truly fraud on the customer's account. The customer's not responsible for those transactions. There is a zero liability for MasterCard and Visa. If the customer did not perform those transactions, then there's zero liability. They would be reimbursed wholly and made whole for those transactions.
Okay. So a little bit of a follow-up to that question. Say, you know, I have a debit card. I use it to make a purchase, and then the cashier asks me debit or credit, and it's a debit card, but I tell them credit. Will it go ahead and process as a credit? Will they pull the funds directly from my checking account like it was a debit? It won't pull from a different.
Right.
It won't post those to a different account.
That's
like
correct.
A debit. Okay.
Yeah. Either way, whether you tell the cashier debit or credit, it's going to pull from the funds that are available in your account. Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And you mentioned MasterCard versus Visa. Can you talk a little? I know some banks use MasterCard, some use Visa. What might be the advantage, or maybe not the advantage, or just the difference, or why they're different?
You know that there is not a whole lot of difference between those two. You're going to find that most all retail shops, online shops, are going to accept MasterCard and Visa. Those are the two primary brands of credit card or debit cards that are used. You know, of course, people are also familiar with American Express and Discover, and most shops will accept those as well. But they're not as popular as MasterCard and Visa.
Sure. Yeah, as we talked with our previous guests, you know, Christmas is the holiday season's right around the corner, and I'm sure transactions are going to increase significantly, and you probably see that throughout the bank as well.
Absolutely, we did.
Are there tips that you could give consumers or card holders to just file away to say to help prevent fraud?
Sure. Yeah. You know, probably the biggest thing is just pay particular attention to your account. You know, we offer online account management, whether it be through our net teller or our mobile app. So we give our customers the ability to monitor their account 24/7, 365. So just monitoring the account and making sure that you're kind of making a mental check mark of every account that every transaction that you see on your account, and know that was something that you performed, and if not, immediately contact your financial institution to report the fraud.
Right.
Okay,
so the sooner you can catch those, the easier they are to get resolved.
Right, and the less fraud that can accumulate on the card on down the line, because you know, the sooner that you contact your financial institution, they'll be able to block the card, and so the fraudster that's got a hold of your card will no longer be able to use it.
Right. Okay. Now I know one of we're in this society now where we check our email every day, and I guess maybe I'm kind of a strange bird that I check my bank account statement every day. I check my credit card statements every day.
Sure.
Just to make sure there's nothing on there that I didn't do.
That's good
or
practice.
something looks fraudulent.
Very good
I
practice.
mean, is there a kind of a recommendation to the consumers out there of how often they should be paying attention to these accounts?
Actually, what you're doing is what I would recommend. Is checking it daily. It even fascinates us sometimes at the bank of how quickly somebody's account, through no fault of their own, no fault of the bank's, how a fraudster can get a hold of that information, and an account can go from being fine and no issues at all to, you know, within hours or a day or what have you, there's fraud on the account. So, you know, it is a good practice to check it regularly, and daily would be what I would recommend.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Yep. Yeah, just to change the topic slightly, but still on the topic of debit cards, I know that you know, recently we've done some traveling, and if you go into certain states, well, it actually surprised us because we were in California and went to buy a $10 T-shirt or something at a gift shop. Well, they declined our card, and I'm like, that's not good.
Right.
But come to find out that there's not necessarily, wouldn't call it a travel ban, but certain states are, you have to call ahead and notify the bank before you.
Yeah, that's a very good point as well. We try to educate our customers on a regular basis that if they are going to go on vacation or they are going to be leaving the area and going out of state, to notify us in advance. We can put a travel alert on the card, on the debit card or their credit card, depending on what they have, or both. And this will allow them to freely use those cards while they're on their trip without any problems. You know, most generally, all financial institutions that issue these type of cards, they have some type of a fraud detection running in the background. So if you don't notify your financial institution, for example, Ohio Valley Bank, and you're in California, the card's being used, and there's no travel alert assigned to that particular card, then that fraud detection run in the background is going to pick up on that, and it's going to think immediately that the card's been compromised and somebody's using that card.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Does that go along for like online purchases as well?
Yeah.
For, say, you're buying merchandise from a store in California, but you're doing it from your local.
No, it doesn't so much go along with that. Typically, the fraud detection that's running in the background will, if there's multiple transactions that have been performed on the same website. Okay. You know, you might have somebody that you know, is on Walmart.com's website for and potentially buying different things, you know, gift cards and whatnot. And if the transactions score a certain level, then the fraud detection will pick up on that as well.
Okay, good. Speaking of fraud, and I hate to make the whole show about that, but there's some good things we want to talk about as well. But so if someone does steal the card, am I the owner of the card liable for the charges that they rack up?
No, sir. No, you're not liable. There is a window of time that you have to notify us.
Okay.
There is a 60-day window.
So it goes back to checking your account.
Checking your account daily. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a 60-day window that leaves the consumer harmless. And zero liability with MasterCard and Visa. So again, the practice of checking your account regularly will ensure that you'll be made whole if there's fraud on your account.
Okay, good. So, you know, another thing I've noticed too, if you do go to a retail store, sometimes you know, they don't even ask for the PIN or signature or anything. You know, you just put your card in and sales complete and you go.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. You'll see that a lot at fast food restaurants.
Fast food restaurants.
So basically, what is going on there is the merchant is absorbing the risk. So if they don't get your signature, they don't get a PIN, and that transaction is fraud, then they are absorbing the risk as far as they'll have to eat that money, so to speak. So if they've got a signature on a receipt, that protects them against any loss in a transaction. At that point, the loss would fall back on the financial institution.
Okay.
So it's basically you see that a lot in the fast food restaurant industry. You know, so the restaurant can keep the line moving through the drive-through and not slow it down.
Do they typically set like a dollar amount threshold that they go by on some things?
Yeah, you know, typically we do not see anything over 50 that's not required to be signed for or pinned one way or the other. So typically a $50 transaction. I believe Walmart's even doing it.
I've kind of noticed that. I've kind of noticed that trend. It's somewhere around that that amount.
Even some gas stations.
Yes.
If you put it in, you know, they'll let it go, but it'll shut you off at a certain amount.
That's right. That's right. It's right at the pay at the pump type deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lesson of that story is don't drive to E.
That's right. That's right.
So we'll change topics just a little bit and maybe get into business. If you own a business card, or if I own a business, what should I look for in a card? What are the benefits that you could?
Well, you know, you typically would look at transactional volume. Do you have employees that you want to give cards out to? You know, we always advise businesses that inquire about credit cards with us that if they need multiple cards, that the best thing to do is to assign a name to each one of those cards, and that way they can receive statements each month on each one of those cards. Each one of those cards are going to have a different account number, so they're going to have the ability to track the expenditures that's put on the card much easier than if they just all go with one card and then they're trying to wait for the employee to provide receipts and whatnot. So it's easier that way.
So.
Okay. So, and certain cards have different rewards with them.
Right, and again, that's consumer or business preferred as well. So, you know, if you're looking for a rewards card that provides maybe travel, you can accumulate points and redeem those points for a vacation for you and your family. Maybe it's something you're looking for by way of merchandise that you can, as a business owner, accumulate merchandise and pass out to your customers. And then, of course, there's always cash. You know, there's a saying around the bank that cash is king. So, you know, a lot of consumers and business owners are looking for those cash-back deals. You know, we currently have a program now that we solicit various business owners in our footprint and in our market, and we will offer them a credit card deal with Ohio Valley Bank and offer the 1% cash back to them, and we call it the payables card. So the idea behind it is to try to get these businesses to pay whatever bills they can with our credit card, and then they'll receive 1% cash back on all those purchases.
Right.
So,
and the benefit to the bank for using credit cards, debit cards versus
it's the interchange income. Yeah. The financial institution is receiving a percentage of that transaction each and every time the consumer or the business uses the card. The bank will receive a percentage of that transaction, and you know, that's one of the keys to a financial institution running a card program.
Right.
And I'm sure I've gone in convenience stores and you see signs that say you can't use your debit card for purchases under a certain dollar amount.
Right.
Yeah. $5.
That's right. The merchant that's accepting the cards are the ones that are realizing the expense as well. So you know, there's some businesses that have adopted a policy that, you know, if the transaction is less than a certain amount, it's not worth the expense to accept the transaction by card. So they would prefer cash, or the transaction be higher than a certain level.
Right. Sure. So one good thing about, you know, using a debit card, you know, used to always go into, you know, gas stations or convenience stores around the area, and there will be this list on the wall of do not accept checks from these people.
That's right.
So you don't have to worry about that with a debit card.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, because it automatically filters out the bad checks whenever.
Yeah, that's the beauty of paying by card for the business.
Right. You don't have to worry about
They know that it's a transaction that they're going to get paid for. That they don't have to worry about the bank calling the next day and saying this check's bounced.
That's right.
Come and get it.
That's right. That is right.
And generally, I know we mentioned early in this on the intro that you know, the balance now is generally like what you told us at lunch, 60% to
65%,
65%, 35% card versus check transactions. But the reality is, check transactions will probably never go away completely.
That's right.
And we were talking that you know, even if you have a large bill to pay, because most debit cards have a daily limit on how much you can. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
we have a daily limit on ours, and you know, almost all institutions are going to have that daily debit card limit. But we also give our customers the ability to call us, and we will temporarily raise that limit for them if they need to pay a bill that's above and beyond that limit. You know, some customers may call us and say, I need for this limit to be permanently raised, and we'll do that on a case-by-case situation as well.
Sure.
So the idea is, for the financial institution, is to keep the limit somewhere manageable for us and the customer. That way, if there is fraud on the card, it can only get to a certain level
Right.
each given day. So.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay. Well, we're running short on time again, I know, and I think there's one more thing we want to talk about, and it's the debit cards with the local schools and charities.
Yeah, we have a super program at Ohio Valley Bank, and it's our Community First cards.
Okay.
And local schools, local charities. As a matter of fact, we're rolling out 5 new designs here soon, and they're going to be for the branches of the armed services. So
Neat.
I think those 5 cards will put us at 37 designs.
I think you can
Yeah,
see
we've got
them on the screen,
Yeah.
right
in fact,
now.
there they are. So
Those are the armed service.
armed service cards, and those are brand new. They're not available yet. We do anticipate those being ready here before the shopping season. Pretty certain of that.
Okay.
So
Cool.
something we will mention is these particular cards. There is an added fee to purchase these cards, but half of that goes back to the organization, the school district, or the charity.
Okay.
So it's another way that Ohio Valley Bank is giving back through the community.
Right.
So.
Great. That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, that is good.
Is there anything that we're missing that we didn't talk about? I know we've covered a lot, but
I cannot think of anything.
okay. So this is
So,
great
yeah,
information, right?
it is.
Especially the time of year and right
Right.
before the holidays, and just
So whether you're a consumer or a vendor, the cards can make your life a lot
Much easier.
simpler,
Much simpler. Yes.
easier to do totals of sales at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
to keep track of your banking account,
Right.
everything. You never have to really truly balance your checkbook with these, right? You don't have to get the calculator out and tally it up. You just log on to your statement, and
And there they
it's
are.
tallied right there instantaneously for you.
Yes.
So that's
the
a-
convenience of paying with a card.
That's a great
There you
thing.
go.
That is a great thing.
Yep.
So, well, Alan, thank you so much for
Thanks
joining
for
us
having
again.
me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And we really appreciate having you on the show. And this is something that's becoming a part of our daily lives.
Oh,
just the
every
cards. I
day.
mean,
Yep.
you said you've been doing this for 10 years, and it's probably vastly changed
It
the volume
has.
of transactions
It has.
that come through the
Tremendously.
bank during
And
that time.
more emphasis every year is put on card usage.
Yeah.
So.
I used to think it was silly to buy people to buy their lunch with a debit card, and now it's just commonplace.
That's right.
That's right.
Some people don't carry cash anymore, right?
That's right. That's
Cash
true.
is obsolete in most cases.
That's right.
So-
At least for me.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
for having me.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
for Common Sense, I'm Brad Bapst,
I'm Ryan Mapes.
and we'll see you again next time.